welcome guys. We are back again with the CSEC 2015 multiple choice IT past paper. We are here to finish off where we had left off. We have continued from 41 straight to 60. So let us go back to where we had left off. Alright, it says here, which of the following characteristics must two database tables have in order for them to be linked? So we are looking at two tables, and within the tables there must be something similar for them to be linked, and it says here at least one common attribute name. So the attribute name is their field name, so it must have one common field name within each table for them to be actually linked. So the answer here would have been A. There must be at least one common name in each table for them to be linked. It says consider the following algorithm here, and I said earlier on that an algorithm is a step-by-step process to solve a problem. So it gives you a step here. It says A is equal to 7, B is equal to 9, A is equal to B minus A, B is equal to A plus B. Write A and B, and remember that write is an output instruction, so we are supposed to output A comma B. The output of this algorithm is, so we are supposed to execute this step. A and B would have been considered the input or the initial values. A is 7, B is 9, so we perform the calculation here. So A is 7, B is 9, we subtract 7 from 9, a new value now becomes 2. So the new value of A is now 2. So wherever we see A going forward, A has a value of 2. So A here has a new value of 2. B did not change as yet, so B old value was 9. So 9 plus 2 now becomes 11. So the output is A is equal to 2 and B is equal to 11. So that is the output from this algorithm. Which of the following effects is a special animation effect? So we are looking at PowerPoint. So we want a special animation effect in PowerPoint where the information fades after it has been presented. So animation would not be the answer that we are looking for. Dimming sound like it could reflect on the word fades. So we could say dimming would be the special animation effect where the information fades after it has been presented. Entrance would just be the text or the picture just appearing, and emphasis would be more on showing either bold or big or so forth. So we're looking at fade. So dimming is more the solution that we're looking for there. It says when breaking down a simple problem into its logical step, what statement or instruction would the adding of two numbers be? So adding would be more of a processing stage. So once you add two numbers, it's more of a process. Which of the following is normally used for website to website connection? Now a modem is to change your signal from analog to digital and vice versa. A monitor is more of a display unit, and hypertext just to transfer information across the internet, and hyperlink is more of a website to website connection. It's a link from one website to another. Hyperlink would be the solution. What is the name given to an identifier that always holds the same value? So the value remains the same. So we said that a constant does not changes. So it will remain. Variable changes. So a constant would remain. So it's going to hold the same value. The object that is used to produce a list of records that meets a particular criterion is and we could say it's a query. So in database, Microsoft Access, you would have to go to queries, and within a query you look for specific information that is based on that criteria. So query is the solution that we're looking for. Which of the following data types cannot be entered into a database table? So we can enter number into a database, we can enter text, and yes, we have the option for yes or no selection. Array cannot be entered into a database. It says here you are given the problem of finding the sum of three numbers, and you use an IPO chart to decompose the problem. So IPO represent input, processing, and output. So you must have input, then it goes to processing, then it goes to output. So we want to say what is the correct order of the statements to be placed in input, processing, and output column here. So let me bring it up some more. It says added three numbers together, num1, num2, num3. No, we cannot start the processing stage. So let us jump down to part D, where it says num1, num2, num3. So you would enter the three numbers here. After the three numbers have been entered, then you could go to the process to add the three numbers together. That would be the processing stage. And from the addition of the three numbers, you will get the total. So D would be the answer that we are looking for. The last step in solving a problem is the last step. So the last step to solve a problem is for you to test the solution. We would not evaluate. The first step is to define the algorithm. So the last step is to test your solution after you have developed the algorithm, evaluate the algorithm. So the last step is to test the solution. So you can look back at steps involving problem solving. The Pascal code VAR. VAR represents variable. So the variable x and y would generate an error. The term used to describe this type of error would be a syntax error. So once you are declaring a variable in Pascal, you must have a semicolon at the end. If you do not have a semicolon at the end, it would indicate an error, and the error will be of a syntax error. Rules that follows English-like statements. So syntax error would be generated from this. Right, 50. The integer variables a, b, and c are given the values 6, 10, 2 respectively. So it goes in that order. A is 6, B is 10 and C represent the number 2. What is the result of the expression A multiply bracket B divided by C? So we could work out the bracket. B is 10 and C is 2. So 2 can go into 10 5 times, and you multiply that by A, which is 6. The result is 30. So 6 times 5 give you 30 right there. Alright, let us move to 55. We have a pseudocode here, or we consider an algorithm same way. It says read A, comma B. It says if, so we have a if function here, and we are given two options. It says if A is less than the number 2, then C, where we see the arrow indicates an equal sign, it represents equal sign. So we are saying here, if A is less than 2, C will then be the value 2, else C will be 6 if A is not less than 2. If A is less than 2, the value of C is 2. So we have a function here. It says D equals C times B plus 2. Right, D. What is printed by the pseudocode if the input values are 5 and 2 respectively? If the input values are 5 and 2 respectively. Right, so the input values represent the same read line here. So the read line is the same thing as input. So 5 is for A, and B, the value is 2. So let us do the condition test here. So A is 5. Is 5 less than 2? We would say no. That is false. So we would go where it says else. C is equal to 6. So the input value for C now is going to be 6. So we are going to use 6 times 2 is going to give us 12, and then we add back 2 to give us 14. So what would be output for D is the number 14. So C for your answer there. Moving down. 51. The original code written by the programmer is termed. So the original code would be your source code, right? So the code that represents the original program, or the first piece of code that is written, would be deemed as your source code. Object code is produced after the compiler has executed your source code. Machine code is also produced after the compiler or the interpreter has translated your high-level language. So the original code, or the first piece of program, is known as your source code. 56. Which of the following statements includes loop? So sequencing, repetition, selection, and ordering. So the term loop represents repeating a set of instructions. So repetition would be repeating a set of instructions here. Sequencing is more of you going through a logical step or order, and selection is where you are given options there. In this case, loops represent repeating a set of instructions. 52. Errors that result from not following the rules of the programming language are called. once you're looking at rules of the programming language, you're looking at the language body now. It is still syntax error because your language is an high-level language, which is more of a human-like language. Hence, you would have more of syntax types of errors. Logical errors would come from you performing mathematical calculation or following a logical sequence. Runtime errors would come when your program fails to execute, or we could call it fails to run or carry out the task. But rules of following the programming language is more of syntax error, and we don't have any execution errors here. It's just three types of programming errors: logical error, runtime error, and syntax error. And most of the time you would have syntax errors. Which of the following is not a third generation language? So we know Pascal to be a third generation language, C to be a third generation, and Cobalt. Assembly language is more of a second generation language. So assembly is not. Going across, a compiler is a software that converts. What is a compiler? So a compiler is going to convert your source code to machine code, which is zeros or one. So it is going to convert your source code. I will just discuss that the source code is the original code or your high-level language, and it's going to produce machine code, which is zeros and one. So it's going to convert. It also produces object code, but in this case it does not convert it one instruction at a time. The compiler converts all the instruction in one go, and it does not convert to assembly code either. An assembler would do that. 58. Which of the following symbols is used to perform assignments in the programming language Pascal? So in Pascal, to assign the value, we use an equal sign with a colon to assign values to a variable. So we would use a semicolon, a colon with the equal sign in this case here. 60. A computer program is coding an algorithm which calculates the class average for a given exam. He creates a variable called class average. Which data type should he specify when declaring this variable? So we said that a computer program is coding an algorithm which calculates the class average. So average in this case is what is determined, right? And we know that average can contain decimal value 56.8, 98.5, right? So we know that it can have a decimal value there. He creates a variable called class average. We want to assign a data type for declaring this variable, and we said that integer would represent positive and negative whole numbers. So we're not saying that the person could not get a 60% average, but sometimes averages can come with a decimal value. So real numbers consist of decimal values, so it's best to set it at real numbers here. And that's it for 60. So thanks for watching, guys. Remember to click the subscribe button, and you will be informed when the next set of past paper questions is coming out, and we'll continue to update you and share ideas as we go along. Thanks for watching.